Hello and welcome back for episode 13 of the Creabea Knitting podcast. My name is Rebecca and I'm a crafter based in Edinburgh, and this is a vlog or a podcast all about knitting, what I've been knitting on, what I'm currently knitting on, and what I'd like to knit on in the not too distant future, as well as some yarny goodness. And yeah, I do have some yarny goodness today. I have a load of finished objects, quite a few. I've got some socks to talk about. Got 2 new cast-ons. And today's also the end of, well, yesterday. Today I'm filming on Thursday and this will go live on Friday. So the Conealong has ended and there'll be Conealong prize winners. And yeah, I'm looking at some giant hanks of yarn at my feet, so I've got some yarn to talk about. So plenty to get on with. If you're a new viewer, hello and welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back and welcome to a change of scenery. I normally sit directly behind where the camera is right now on a different chair, but I did a bit of reshuffling today because I wanted to wear this jumper, and this jumper is exactly the same colour as my chair. So in the interest of like contrast, I changed to here. But actually I think it's really nice. I really like this. You got like my books and like my little doors and my plants and nice bright light, so it's kind of a nice spot for it. So maybe I'll return here again in the future. But let's get started. I can start with what I'm wearing because that's why we're sitting this way. So I finished this a while ago and it's not been on the podcast yet as a finished object, I don't think. Yeah, sorry if there's a lot of bird noises. I live relatively close to the sea, and so there are seagulls outside, and there are so many seagulls right now. And I don't know why, like something's got them all riled up, but we're not going to let that get us in the way of podcasting. But if you hear seagulls in the background, then apologies for the bird noises. As if on cue. So yeah, I am wearing my sweater number 11 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. It is really nice. It's a really nice sweater. I love this. I really love this jumper. So this is a top-down construction. You knit it in like pieces, and then it's got this drop shoulder. It's got a really interesting sleeve detail. Wait, my hair out of the way. A really interesting sleeve detail with these like really interesting like this bump. And then it's got a twisted rib. So it's got a twisted rib on the neck, it's got a twisted rib on the sleeves, and it's got a twisted rib at the bottom of the sweater. And I love this jumper so much. It's a real like cozy comfort blanket, and I feel like it feels kind of fancy, like I feel quite put together when I'm wearing it, and it is also just so like soft and soothing. I knit this with 1 strand of Cascade 220 in the River Rock that's the challenge today, the River Rock colourway, and 1 strand of Filcolana Tilia in the colourway Latte. And I'm pretty sure I only use 5 skeins of each, because I definitely have a full skein of mohair and a full skein of Cascade left, which is always kind of annoying. I hate having, I've got quite a few like random single skeins. Yeah, so that's, anyway. And yeah, I love this. The sweater only comes in 3 sizes. They're all with like 20 plus centimetres of positive ease. I made the smallest size, which I believe is 126 centimetres finished bust, and as you can see, like it's a pretty loose sweater on me. It's a bit more fitted through the arms. Like it obviously doesn't have 26 centimetres of positive ease. I have a 100 centimetre bust, so it's meant to have, well, it does have 26. It's meant to have a lot more, like 30, I think. So there's this size, there's a second size, and I think the biggest size is 148 centimetres finished bust. And I really love it. I love it a lot. I've actually spilled some coffee on it, which I was really worried would be a problem for today. But I spilled an oat milk latte, and that's kind of like the exact colour of this shirt, this sweater, so you can't really see it. I'm really bad for washing my knits. I'm intensive. I just don't really do it very often, unless there's a mark on them. I usually just air them out. So this one has not been washed since it was first blocked. But yeah, that's what I'm wearing today, and I just really like it. It's really cozy. It's actually potentially a bit too warm today to wear it out. I booked today off for just a random day off. But I probably won't wear this because it's like 16 degrees outside today, and I think this is going to be too warm. And because it's mohair, if you're too warm, like I find mohair is always cozy unless I'm too warm, and then I find it itchy. If I'm sticky and hot, then the mohair just sticks to me. So I don't think I'll wear this. I might change out of it later on, but I thought I'd wear it for podcasting because I love this sweater and it's not had enough airtime. But let me jump into my finished objects. I have finished 2 sweaters and another something. We've had a good few days for finishing. So, okay, let me start with this one. So my first is a test knit. I showed this last time as a work in progress. It is a test knit for Gregoria Fibres. I thought Gregoria Fibres was a Scandi designer just because it's very like, the aesthetic is very Scandinavian, but actually she's Spanish. I've never knit any of her patterns before, although I have had, I think I've purchased them before, but I've never knit with them. And then I saw this test knit and I signed up for it, and honestly, like, I almost regretted signing up because I was like, I've got so much on my plate, I should not sign up for a test knit. But it was actually a real joy to knit, so I'm really, really glad I did. So let me hold up to show, and then I'll also put some pictures in. This is my test knit. It is called the Bina, B-I-N-A, Bina V-neck. It's originally, the original sample is knit in their own yarn, which is a blown yarn, so it's a really, really lightweight one. I knit the large, which again I think has like 20 plus, maybe 25 centimeters positive ease. Normally with an oversized pattern I would size down, but I signed up for a large and kind of forgot that it had so much positive ease, so I probably, if I were to knit it again, would size down a little bit because it is pretty, it's quite a loose fit. Otherwise I love it. I am just struggling to work out how to style a v-neck sweater because I don't really own very many. So it's definitely like, I feel myself reaching for it a lot when I'm working from home, but I've not really worked out how to wear it like nicely yet, which I think is a shame because it's a really nice sweater. So let me talk about the sweater first and then the yarn. So it's also kind of similar to this, it's a similar shoulder construction. However, something really interesting about this pattern is that there are no short rows, which makes it really, really straightforward. I think there's a possibility that you lose a little bit of the fit, like it maybe doesn't fit quite as well. But when it's this oversized, I don't think it really matters as much. Like this, what I really love, like the shoulders fit really well. Like, sorry, the shoulders here is all short rows and it makes like a really oversized but like tailored fit. This is just oversized, which I don't think is an issue. And it also makes for, like I say, much, much more straightforward construction because you're just knitting, like you're just doing it, which is nice. It has like a 2x2 ribbing on the cuff and on the hem, which I think is just really nice and like different, like it adds to the sort of oversized feeling of it. And then hands down, like the best part about this design is this neckline. This is knit in actually, you pick up and knit the neckline and you knit it's stockinette at a smaller gauge and then a folded over neckline, which I just think is so interesting because I've never really seen a stockinette neckline before. It took me a couple of tries to get it right, and actually it was probably the only part of the pattern I had a lot of feedback for, and I'm still not sure I've done it the way the pattern recommended. The wording at that part just wasn't very clear and I was impatient to wait for it to get rewritten, so I just sort of ploughed ahead. And I think it's maybe, I think in the final one the cinder stitch is maybe better defined than in mine, but I'm the one wearing it, right? So I'm not that bothered. And the feedback has been written and like taken down for the instructions for that part, so I think it'll be much clearer in the finished pattern. So yeah, that's my Bina v-neck. It feels a little bit like a school jumper, I will admit, but I'm not mad about it. Like I do like a good like preppy vibe, so it does work with what I like to wear. But yeah, it does remind me of like, I could put a white shirt and a school tie under this and I'd feel like I was going to school. The yarn for this is Woolyknit British wool in the colourway Heron. I bought 600 grams with 3 hanks back in the Halloween sale, and I paired it with, again, Filcolana Tilia, which is a mohair in the colour Slate, and it was perfect gauge. Like the gauge for this is an absolute dream. The fabric it is created is beautiful. I think the one thing that I'm sad about is I love this yarn so much, I kind of feel like I should have saved this combination for something really, really special, but that's a silly thing because the hanks are not expensive. I think when I got them, they were £6 a hank, and I'm pretty sure, I need to weigh my leftovers, I think I had 200 grams left. I might have just tucked into the third. I meant to do it before I started filming, I forgot. So yeah, I mean maximum £18 for the yarn, and then my maybe 5 balls of Tilia. Tilia is usually about £7. Yeah, it's not inexpensive. I think I forget when I buy yarn in 2 separate sections, like in my head, when you add them together they don't count as the same together. Anyway, it's not a combination I couldn't quite easily duplicate, is what I kind of want to say. And yeah, I just really love this fabric it makes. So that is my Bira V-neck test knit. I'm really glad it's done, and it's really found a very quick way into my work from home outfits, which I kind of like, but I also don't like because I want it to be a little bit special. I'm about to dress it up a little bit, but it's not the end of the world, and I'm glad it's done. And the pattern's not out yet. The deadline was the 18th of March. I finished it on the 17th. I was blocking on the 18th. I was a very good test knitter, but no news on when the pattern's coming, but I would keep an eye on it if you're interested, because it is something a bit more unique and quite special. And I mentioned in the last podcast that the designer extended the size range on this for the test knit, so it's now it goes up to a 5XL, which is really exciting. And yeah, that is my first finished object. I'm trying to work out if I should lower this blind. Like, is this a little bit going to bake me? Maybe. I'll keep going for now. Okay, my second finished object is just finished blocking. Like, I put another reason why I'm probably too hot today is I put the radiators on for 20 minutes this morning to get the last dampness out of my two finished objects. Like, my grey one was done a while ago, but this and the next one. And we never have the heating on during the day. Only put it on for like an hour at night, not even an hour. So I'm definitely too warm. But are you ready? It's finished. Oh my goodness. So I don't think, okay, I'll get into it, wait a second. So firstly, I've actually also done a bit of a silly thing, and I've done something funny when blocking it, and I don't know what I've done here. I'm gonna have like, I think I have to like dampen this part and repin it, because it's gotten like a funny little, like, you see that? Like, it's, anyway. This is the sweater number 18 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. It is quite a new design that came out not that long ago actually. It's a really interesting one. It is an all over textured pattern that is made using knits, pearls, and a knit purl like switch, like a 1x1. It's not quite ribbing, but it's a 1x1 stitch. I just think it's really, really interesting, and as soon as I saw this pattern come out, I was like, yes, I want to make that. So I'm really glad I have. There was a mini knit along for this that was hosted on Instagram, which I think was just called the sweater number 18 mini cal, and it was really nice because the organisers, like, I just responded to, I think there was an Instagram button or something, someone said, would you be interested in a cal? So I was like, yeah, sure. And then I got added to a group chat, which I wasn't expecting, but was actually really nice. I enjoyed knitting this, but it did at some point it felt like a complete joy, and at some point it felt like I was really dragging my feet with it. I think the pattern is charted, but I struggled a little bit with the charts. The chart is just like it's maybe just 5 stitches across, and the middle 2 stitches are grey, like the rest are white background, that's a grey background, and that means to repeat. So it wasn't, which I understand, because you don't want, like, it's the same thing across, but for some reason my brain really struggled to see that. So I went with a line by line, and I just had it open on my iPad, and I would like score off the line as I went, which was quite nice, but also kind of was like, oh my god, like line by line for some reason like got into my head a little bit. I really, up until the point where the shoulder is again top down construction, so you knit the back panel and then you knit the 2 front shoulder, like these front sections, and then you join under the sleeves, and then you do the body in the round, and you obviously do the sleeves in the round. I found the back and forth a bit of a drain. I don't know why, and it's interesting because it's knits and pearls and knit 1 purl 1. So theoretically, knitting flat, it's not like you're purling more than if you're knitting in the round, because it's still a knit purl pattern. but it just took forever. Once I joined the round, the body went really quickly, and then the 2 sleeves went super fast. I think I finished, like, it took me maybe 4 days to knit the sleeves. Like, I basically did, maybe not even that. I think I did like the first half of the sleeve, and then I had to do like a little bit, did the second sleeve, and then finished it off. The other thing is why I'm so excited about seeing it right now is because it really puffs up. Like, it's really, it's a very puffy stitch, because again, the knit purl, like these sections where there's like the bits where there's a couple of bands of purling, I don't know how to describe it, they were just really like bumpy, and so it was quite an aggressive block. Like, I really had to stretch it all out to block it flat, and so this is the first time I'm seeing it properly, because when it was wet it wasn't the right colour, like it wasn't a golden colour, it was kind of like a grey brown, well, a greeny brown. So it's done. Looks so cute. I have no idea how I'm gonna wear this. Like, I don't know if this is gonna go with in my wardrobe at all. Somebody commented on my last episode and was like, you definitely enjoy wearing plains and knitting patterns, and that's definitely correct. Like, I really enjoy, my favourite sweaters to wear are really plain ones, but I don't like knitting plain things, so this is kind of part of that. But we'll see. And the yarn for this is also Woolyknit, so this is one of my Conealong projects. This yarn, again, I actually bought the yarn for this and the yarn for this in the same delivery, which is kind of very apropos that I'm finishing them both in the same, like, 2 week, and I had them both in the needles at the same time. This is the colourway Harvest. There are 2 colours that Woolyknit does, this one and Cinnamon. I'm not talking about this wet because it's only just coming back out of the pile, but this is a cinnamon colour. It's been on ice for a few weeks, but it's coming back. But that colour and this colour are my favourites. I think they're just unparalleled, they're beautiful. So I used Harvest, and again, I think I have 200 grams left of that, so I only used 400 grams of it, so 2 hanks. And I paired it with Sandnesgarn Tynn silk mohair in the colour Ochre, which I read was being discontinued, which is a shame because I found this relatively tricky to match the colours of this. I think Knitting for Olive has a similar match, but it was a bit pricier. So it's a real shame because I think they were just perfect together. So yeah, oh, isn't it just so good? That is my sweater number 18. One of my favourite things, knitwear, and it is in the colour, maybe this is what I wear today. It is in the colourway Harvest and Ochre, and like, I know we're getting into the summer weathers now, and me knitting, like, because what is the gauge? I think the gauge on both of these is like 16 or 18 centimetres, but like, isn't this just like the happiest little pile of sweaters? Yeah, and now it's becoming spring. But it's okay because I can just start wearing sweaters places with no jacket. I still live in Scotland, it's not warm. So those are my two big FOs, but I have another FO. And it's a new experience for me, a new foray into a new area, and I'm not sure I'm sticking in this area because I find it a little bit nerve-wracking. So let me show you first. I made a baby cardigan. So one of my friends, a knitting friend of mine, is pregnant, and I asked if I could send something, and she said yes. So I was like, yay, exciting, baby knits. And originally I cast on a blanket. No, it's just not happening. So I cast on, so I went looking for a cardigan pattern, and I actually chose this pattern because Caroline of Caroline's Knits made a few of these in scraps, and it's, I think, called the Chunky Baby set. I'll put it on screen because I can't remember the designer either. Strikrik something. So yeah, it's a little cardigan. I am not sure about the proportions of this at all. So what will I, okay, a few things to say about it. It's pretty simple. I messaged the designer actually because I think the translation to English isn't perfect. There are some confusing things in it. A lot of the common terms in, like, the common English terms for knitting are something else in the pattern, like knit through the back loop is not knit through the back loop, and knit two together is not knit two together. It's a different term, which just throws you off a little bit. and when you're placing the raglan markers, it was like place marker in stitch 9, and I was like, what do you mean place it in the stitch? Like, is it one other side? I don't know. So I found that a little bit confusing, and I was quite, I think, fortunate that I had made raglan before, like raglan cardigan before, and I've made a grown on button band before, because all of that just made sense to my brain, and I pretty much just used the pattern for the stitch counts. That being said, I'm a bit concerned about the proportions of this. I don't own a baby, nor does anyone else I really know, and I'm not sure if this is going to fit. So I originally planned to make the like the second or third size. It goes up to, I think, a year, maybe it's 2 years. I think I was going to make like the 6-month size, because I thought, well, it won't fit right away, but then maybe it'll fit like over next winter. And I cast on, and the first time I cast on, I got relatively far and then realised I'd done something wrong. Oh, my stitch count, my stitches, again, that whole place to stitch in such and such. I realised my raglan markers were in the wrong place. So I went back and I decided that I also, like, the size I was doing I had 150 grams of yarn. So I was like, oh, the biggest size required that. So I made the second biggest size. So a couple of things. I don't know if this, like, I just don't know if it's going to fit. I feel this neckline is really small for a baby. But all of them pretty much have this kind of the similar size neckline. Like, doesn't that just feel really small? I don't know. And I stopped the body short because it was just going and going and going. And I think I still had to knit like another 6 centimetres. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then the sleeves are kind of winged the length of it. So, as you can tell, I had a mixed experience with this cardigan. I think what I might do is go in, because I think a lot of the things in it work, it's just not, I'm not really sure about the sizing of it. So I think there are plenty of free baby cardigans out there. And actually I was knitting this, I was hanging out with my mum a few weekends ago, and I was knitting this when I was with her, and her cousin, or like, I don't know, somebody was having a baby. And I said I'd knit something for them too. So I'm going to knit a smaller size, because actually baby knits, you're like, this is going to take me no time at all, because you fly through the yoke. And then for some reason the rest of it took way longer than I expected. So yeah, so it's not got buttons. It was in the same, I blocked it at the same time as my other sweater, my sweater number 18. I bought some buttons, but I'm not sure about them. I bought these little ducks from Ginger Twist Studio, but I think they're actually going to be too big. So I also bought just a plain white one, and well, a set of plain white ones and a set of plain yellow ones. So I actually think that little yellow one might just be like kind of perfect. So yeah, I just need to attach them and then I can send this off. I'm toying with the idea of sending a little pair of like baby socks or something, but we will see. Maybe I should just send this now it's done. And yeah, I think for the next one, I'm just going to go hunting. I mean, the pattern combo, they're really cute. It has like a little romper, like a little, almost like a dungaree, and then it has a little like legless little romper thing. And it's got a cardigan and it's got a tie, like a wrap cardigan. The patterns are beautiful, but I just think I'm not confident enough with like how big babies are. So I think what I'll do, like this is pretty big, right? This is going to fit like a baby, like this is not a newborn size. This is like a past newborn. And then are their arms too long? I don't know. So I'm going to knit a much smaller version for the second one I'm making. And I might go looking for another pattern, because just to validate baby sizes in my head. Because yeah, it just confused me a little bit. I was going to use stash yarn for this, but I don't really have much superwash, so I bought some yarn. It is Drops Charisma, which is superwash, 100% wool superwash, which for a knitting new mum I thought was absolutely perfect. Like, she knows how to wash and block things, but also it's still superwash, so it can just go in the washing machine. It's really not expensive. I think it's about £2.30 a ball, and I actually have some left. That's what I was going to do. I was going to knit a matching hat, or maybe like a smaller hat, so the hat will fit now and the cardigan will fit later. And I have maybe, it's right over here. I have this much left of 3 balls, so I can definitely get a little hat out of this. So yeah, that's my baby cardigan. The knitting, the person who's having the baby made a cardigan for herself that is a yellow raglan cardigan, and so I just thought this would be so cute, because then they're gonna have matching cardigans. So that was like my driving force. And honestly, look at this, like look at that. Oh my god, it's so cute. So yeah, I may have given my boyfriend a heart attack when he walked in on the blocking mats and there was like little and large blocking. He was like, what is that? I was like, it's a gift. Don't you worry. It's a non-announcement. So yeah, really cute, really adorable, and potentially doesn't fit very well, but we'll find out. And hopefully get that sent off soon. So those are all of my, well, kind of all of my FOs. I thought what I would do, well yeah, as you can see, I've been busy, very busy. I've also cast a few things on, but I'm feeling good about getting things off my needles. They were getting a bit chaotic and I was feeling a bit like, I was feeling very inspired by new things, but because this cardigan I just showed, this one, that's in the cinnamon, I showed it a few episodes ago and it's just sitting. So I'm kind of looking forward to like finishing this one off, and then I've got a few new things cast on, and then I think I got myself into a place where I had my next like 10 projects planned, and that was nice, but I'm now feeling like I need a bit like a creative little stretch and I want to try some, like look for some new things. So it feels good to get things like moving off my needles. So next up, those birds are at it again. They're so loud today. Next up I thought I would do socks, because I kind of got like finished objects and acquisitions and works in progress all in the category of socks, but it's easier just to show all at once. I can't remember where I got to with my socks last time. Like I know I think I had two finished socks, but from two different, yeah, I think. So firstly, I finished, these have been worn, so apologies, they're not in their best shape. So this one, look at that little toe. My blocker is obviously too small for this sock. So this is the first one that I finished, and I think I finished a shorty. I should have brought two blockers. I think I finished a shorty as well in the same ball of yarn. So I had this. I think this is what I had last time to show. So this was the January sock set from Pigment and Ply, which is a UK based indie dyer. She's just gone full time with her yarn dyeing, and her colours are stunning, like unparalleled. I think they're beautiful. I saw her stall unravel and I was really wanting to get a sweater quantity, but all of her yarn was superwash that was there. So I was like, oh, I don't really want a superwash. But if she does bigger quantities in like the colours I'm looking for, a lot of her colours are darker. So maybe like in autumn, I'll look at getting a sweater's quantity. It was 100 grams with a 20 gram mini. I have literally no yarn left. I have a little nugget of the contrast colour, but I don't have any of the main, like I had like less than a metre of the main colour left, which I was really pleased with. So I made a big pair, like a pair of larger ones for the boyfriend, and I made a shorty pair. Oh, that's what I had left of the set. Isn't that amazing? And I made a shorty pair for myself, so we have matching socks, which is obviously the peak of cuteness. However, we hit a snag in the road. These are my ones, sorry. I've also been wearing these, so they're kind of, they're not on particularly, yeah, I've worn these like 4 days in the past week, so they're kind of all bagged out. But I just used the contrast, they're just vanilla socks, and I just used the contrast colour for the heels and toes of this pair. And I just used the contrast for like 5 rows at the top of this one, and otherwise didn't use it. And this is an afterthought heel, which is my favourite to knit, and this is a heel flap and gusset. But I finished these socks, and then I think on a Thursday, and then I handed them to our boyfriend, and he was like, this is amazing, thank you so much. And I was like, you're so welcome. Now this is their non-superwash, sorry, that's not even true. It's their no nylon sock base. It is superwash. It's a no nylon BFL sock base. And he went to the cinema, we went to the cinema together to see The Godfather Part 2, and I really wasn't feeling well. So I stayed home and he went to the cinema, and he walked there and walked back. It's maybe a 35-40 minute walk either way, and he got back and took his boots off and he had a hole in the sock. And I could have cried. He was so apologetic, and I was like, it's not you, like don't be silly, like you just wore the socks, like you didn't do anything wrong. But yeah, he just completely tore through the heel, and he tore through the reinforced heel. And my sock gauge is 32 stitches per 10 centimeters, so like it's a perfectly normal sock gauge, and he just tore through them. So I took a picture. I think I can pop a picture of what the hole looked like. It just went straight through the heel. Now, he's relatively hard wearing on socks, like without a doubt, but I made him other socks, and only the very first pair that I made for him last Christmas have only just started to wear down a little bit, and so I've just put like patched like a darn, and I've just darned up like one of those, and that was a commercial. I'm pretty sure it was a West Yorkshire Spinners with Lang Yarns Yawol as the contrast heel and toe, and he went through the toes, the heel, sorry, so the Yawol. So it is a commercial, and it's a superwash, and it's a nylon base. So I did expect these. I kind of just thought they would felt. I did not at all expect them to go through them in one wear. And if I'm honest, like I just didn't think that was okay. At first I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, this is so annoying. But I messaged the dyer, and the other thing was I placed an order for the next month's sock in the same base, and I was like, I'm not knitting with this base again, because even if it's just for someone who's not as hard wearing, like they're gonna, like, even if it was me, for example, I'm gonna go through these in like 6 months. If it takes him one wear, then me, I'm perfectly normal with socks, is gonna go through them really quickly. So I messaged the dyer and I said, look, like I've placed an order for the second one, and I'm really just not very happy with this base. I'd much rather have something else. Is there any chance that you could send out my February order with a different base? Which he did. So I'm really, really grateful for that. I'll show that yarn in a second. And for this one, to be fair, there's still like weird holes in it. Like, it's pulled a bit weird in some ways, but for the hole that he put, I mended it. Look at that though, you can just see how badly like it's felted, and just like they've only been worn once. So yeah, I felted it. I put well, not felted, sorry, I mended it. I used my speed weave, or my mending loom, which it's the first time I'd used it, and it was so easy, and I would definitely now be much more confident mending socks in future. And I've mended a hole in a second, like the other pair that was wearing thin. I don't think he's worn them since. I think he's nervous that they're going to get holes in them, so I think he's a bit scared to put them on, which is understandable, to be fair. But yeah, the mending worked pretty well. I used a nylon for this because I'm paranoid now, to be honest. But yeah, as I said, the dyer was really good. She's sent a replacement. She sent a couple of like 3 little minis as well, with like a, sorry that the first ones didn't go very well. And she actually offered to send this base again, the ones that I finished, but I was like, she's like, do you want me to send that and another base? And I said to her, I was like, I'm not really, like by this point I'd knit the entire skein and I'd knit 4 socks. I really didn't want to knit with the yarn again. Which I think is fair. So yeah, I decided not to do that. Oh, those gulls are really going for it. And so yeah, this is what the shorty looks like. Let's put that on the blocker. It's really cute. So I've been wearing these quite a lot, and that is the first sockscapade. So the yarn, I've caked up the yarn for the second one, and I thought I'll show that now instead of in acquisitions. So this is the main colour, and this little pink is the contrast, and this is in the superwash base. And what I've also decided is, when I bought the Lang yarns, the one I used for the other, I bought 2 little 50-gram skeins of Lang Yarns Yawol, which is kind of similar to Arvetta. I bought them ages ago and made one single colourwork sock, and then never made it again because there was so much work and I didn't do a very good job of it. I have that sock lying around somewhere, but I bought like an off-white and a grey, and I still have both of them, and I've used them like intermittently here for heels and toes. And what it comes with is, it comes with a reinforcement thread right in the middle of the skein, and you hold this for your heels and toes. And so what I thought I would do is, this dark is pretty, like, it goes quite well with this set. So I'm going to do the same with these. I'm going to make a short pair and a longer pair. It's also got nylon, so it definitely, like, you shouldn't go through them as quickly. But I thought I would use this as a attempt at trying out the extra reinforced. I've just got it in the cake for now. The extra reinforcement. And then I make a shorty pair for myself with the heels and toes in the pink contrast. So yeah, it was definitely a bit of it wasn't a great experience, but it was really good customer service. And she said that she'll add a note to the base, like to maybe hold it with nylon for the heels and toes, which in my opinion defeats the purpose of having a no nylon sock, but we'll see. In other news, if any dyers out there would like their no nylon or non-superwash bases tested, feel free to send a pair of socks my way, because apparently my boyfriend is really good at discovering the weaknesses in non-superwash and non-nylon socks. So I've got a little bit still, and that's where I'm up to. And then I've got one more sock to show. I finished those ones and the new base hadn't arrived yet, but I still had a bit of sock mojo. And I kind of like getting like 10 rows in a day of a sock. So I decided to cast on another pair of socks for myself. Another little shorty and yarn I already had. Just get it on my blocker in. And it's a little rainbow one. I've already worn this. I finished up one of the green ones and this at the same time. And I still had to put the heel in the second green one, but for like half a day I wore one of each sock out of curiosity. So yeah, this is like the second sock I'm doing. It's shorties. Again, afterthought heel and toe, afterthought heel. I just love knitting them so much. And I think I'm getting better at avoiding holes. Like, I think that's pretty neat, right? And the same on this side. There's not really any big gapes. What was I going to say? This is a Regia sock 50-gram ball in this cute little rainbow colourway. This is what it looks like. Sorry, that's pathetic. And it is, so what I've done here is I've done 12 rows for the ribbing, and then 20, and then I put in the heel, and then I do 60, and then I do the toe. And I think that's working pretty well for me. And for this pair, sometimes I find that the heel, whilst it feels that the overall sock fits quite well, the heel, and I find this on ready to wear socks, like the ones I'm wearing now are exactly the same. The heel doesn't sit like around my heel, it sits kind of low. So for this one, I actually took 4 extra stitches into the afterthought heel. So instead of doing, it's like a 64 stitch sock, so instead of doing 32, I did 36 with 2 extra on either side, which makes for like a deeper heel. And I definitely think it makes for a better fit. But that could just be like placebo effect, so I'll wait till they're both finished and see. And I've just started the toe. I've got little nuggets of yarn everywhere. This was the other little contrast, but I kept it for, yeah. So I've just started the toe on the second one. And then I just need to cut the heel in, and then that's that. So I also, I just have a bit of sock mojo right now. I find it really easy. Like if I have like a full 30-minute meeting at work, if I sit and knit through a 30-minute meeting, I get my 10 rows in easy peasy. And it kind of just means there's always a sock turning over. I will say, I will definitely lose my sock mojo. It does not stay permanently. It ebbs and flows, and we're in a flow. And then I'll cast on this one. I also purchased this week, I bought a pair of, oh, do I have them here? No, but I want to talk about them. Let me go get them. Okay, so I also bought this week another pair of Chowgu needles. I am a Magic Loop convert. I used to really hate it, a BTPN's fan. I cast on something. I'm not going to show it because I've not made much success with it. But I cast on the sleeve for a potential new whip on DPNs, and I struggled with it so much, and I realised I've become acclimatised to using Magic Loop for everything. So I always use like the Chowgu, this one, and I use a 2mm needle, and I'm a relatively loose knitter, but yeah, I usually get like an 8 stitches per inch gauge on my socks. But again, when I was having this debacle about trying to make some really hard wearing socks, I thought, well, I could get like a much tighter gauge, and so I ordered a set of 1.75mm needle 1.75mm needles. And then I cast on this, and I realised a couple of things. Firstly, it was way too small, because obviously my gauge had dropped and I just cast on the same number of stitches, which is really stupid. So I'm still trying to work out how many stitches I need for a good fitting sock. That was the first thing I realised. The second thing I realised is that I will not be able to get, like my boyfriend likes quite a long leg on the sock, like an 80 stitch repeat, 80 row repeat even. So I couldn't get a shorty pair and a full length pair out of that yarn if I use a smaller gauge, because obviously if it's tighter gauge it uses up more yarn. so I cast on and then I pulled it off, and then I've cast on again, but I've not really looked at this since, mostly because I'm a bit nervous about the size of it. But I cast on the little cuff of another sock. This is Knit Picks Felici, and I got this in my yarn swap box with Mega of Skeins of Dreams. I think it would be cool to make some progress on these, because then I can enter them into the Connections mal. It's not called that, it's LB, it's from Little Big, yeah, it could be LB Connections, but it's Selma of Little Big Knits is doing a Connections mal, which is all about making gifts or using yarn you've been gifted or using yarn you swapped, and so this yarn would be perfect for that. And it's very like, he'll like these colours, he already really likes them, but I'm running into, I just don't know how many stitches to cast on. I think I have 9 stitches. Like, I just need to do a bit of math and just measuring. I feel this might be a little bit too big, maybe not. So I think I'll probably try and switch to doing like a stripe a day on these from next week sometime. Oh, but that's what I was going to say. Wow, getting distracted. The whole reason I brought these was to say I was really surprised that by only going down, this must be the cut-off size for this size of cable, because the red lace is much, much thinner. I don't know how I'm to show this. I'm like tangled up in a mess here. Okay, so this is the red lace of my 2mm, and this is the one of my 1.75, and here we go. Like, there's quite a big difference. If you look at my palm where they cross over, there's a real big difference in the size of them, and it just makes the 1.75 feel a bit more flimsy, which I don't massively dislike, but I don't love it. Like, it feels a bit weird, and it's hard to switch between them because it just feels like it feels really like plasticky and much lighter. So yeah, just a point of interest, the cable size must be, the difference in cables must be there. Is that everything? That's my finished objects and my socks and my sock acquisition. I think it is. I am going to pause for a minute and I'm going to change out the sweater because it is very warm. The sun is just baking me, and yeah, bad clothing choice. Okay, I'm back. And I put on my Bira v-neck because the v-neck is a little bit airy, and also means you can see how it fits. It's pretty big, like it's definitely oversized and like kind of flows quite nicely. And the sleeves are quite big, but it's so cozy. Like, it just feels very loungewear chic. Okay, finished objects. Let me jump in. No, I haven't finished objects. Works in progress. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do I have another one? Maybe not. Okay, I worked very hard this morning on my morning off. I've taken the day off, so I took a quiet morning and had a really nice breakfast and watched a podcast and finished off the body of the sweater. And I'm so glad the body's done. I'm looking forward to the sleeves, but the body was just dragging. So this is the first sweater. It is a pattern by Hive Knits, who is Lizzie, and it's beautiful, it's amazing. It's blowing out a little bit, so I'll pop a picture on screen of when it was the work in progress so you can get a really accurate picture of what the colour looks like. It's a really rich dark teal blue, and it's a raglan sweater, and the sleeves portion are done in half fisherman's rib. Oh, I've just noticed a mistake. That's so annoying. In like the third round, like up here, I made a mistake. You can kind of see it. I've not noticed it until now, so it's never getting fixed. It's okay. It is knit. It's 24 stitch gauge, which I think is quite a light, like it's definitely more like the fingering end of DK, or like a light DK. So I changed the gauge up a little bit, and I'm now thinking, I can't remember what size I'm making. I think I should have made the 6th size, and I think I'm making the 4th size, and I'm using a 22 stitch gauge instead of a 24 stitch gauge. I like the fabric it made, and I don't want to torture myself by being on 24 stitch gauge, because I would never finish this. It's one strand of fingering weight yarn and one strand of mohair, and yeah, I added a little bit of length to the body. I tried it on at the recommended length, and it was sitting at that point just above my natural waist, which is pretty high. So I added about 7 centimeters, and then I finished the ribbing today. And I didn't do, the pattern calls for a sewn bind off, but firstly, I don't mind the sewn bind off. It takes a long time, I have realised when I'm wearing the garments, I don't notice the different bind offs. The sweater I was just wearing, I don't know where I just dumped it, my sweater number 11 that I just took off has a sewn, like sewn tubular bind off on the body and on the sleeves. And I can't, like, I've never once put it on and thought, oh yeah, I like this one because it's got a tubular bind off. Like, it's just never crossed my mind. So I find a in pattern bind off super stretchy. What I do is I do it from the inside out. So I start, I start at the, when I start the bind off, instead of continuing the round I was going, I stop and I start backwards. So I'm kind of doing the bind off from the inside. And I just find it makes for quite a neat edge, a much neater edge than my regular bind off. Sometimes it can look a bit baggy and a bit loose. And yeah, it's like, it's still super stretchy, like it's perfectly stretchy. I use one needle size. I usually use the size of needle I use for the body to bind off. In this case, it was 3.25 and I'd use a 2.75 for the ribbing. And yeah, it's such nice design details. This folded collar is beautiful. And I had so much fun. Like, it feels like an age ago, and it probably was. It was like a month ago that I knit the yoke. So I'm really excited now to actually be able to knit the sleeves, because I think I will really enjoy the stitch pattern. So yeah, hopefully I can get these cast on, or pick the sleeves picked up maybe today. That could be exciting. That was my post. Yeah, so that is the body done, and I'll cast on the sleeves pretty quickly. I've not even tried this on yet since I finished it, so I might try it on again today. It does feel like it's going to be a bit, not tight, but like tighter fitting, like more close fitted than this, for example, which is just all the space. That's not a bad thing. And it definitely feels like more of like a fancier jumper rather than one that you just throw on. Something to do with like the mohair and the gauge just makes it feel a lot drapier. The yarn I'm using is also Woolyknit yarn, and this was gifted as part of the Conealong. So it is this, I'm peeling from the inside, it's a bit of a funny looking ball. This is the colourway Mallard, and I'm holding it with Filcolana Tilia in the colourway Midnight. And I only have this plus 2 balls of mohair left. I'm a little bit worried because I do think that Half Fisherman's Rib is a bit of a yarn guzzler, like it takes a lot of yarn. But I'm also aware that it's a really stretchy stitch, so you don't actually knit, like, you don't really knit full length sleeves, you knit 3/4 length sleeves and then you block it quite aggressively. So hopefully I've got enough yarn. I think I will. We'll see. So yeah, that is my first sweater. I'm really excited about it. I've definitely, like, it's been one that's been sort of slowly chugging away and it's never really had my full attention. But I do think now that my sweater number 18 is done, this can be like my, and the body's finally finished, I can just pick up the sleeves and just go with it. It's going to be back on a bigger needle, like back on the 3.25 instead of on the 2.75. The 2.75 ribbing was just, it took me like a week and a half to do 5 centimetres of the body and 6 centimetres of ribbing. Like, it just took so long. Okay, I think that's my only, oh no, I've got another current whip. I was going to say I think everything else is a new cast on, but that would be a big fat lie. So, in my Beautiful Knitters bag, Beautiful Knitters is a yarn shop in London, I have a gift knit. It's all a bit tangled up. Let me just get to the bottom of this. Oh, okay, it's a colourwork sweater, and I've talked about this before. This is a gift knit. My stepdad is turning 50 in May, and I said I would make him a sweater, a hand knit sweater for his 50th birthday. He has received many a sock from me in the past, and this was his first bigger project. I'm gonna grab a needle, a cord even, because I think I can show this better if it's on a little stitch holdler, because I realised I meant to do this before I started and I've only realised now as I took it out. So this is an all over colourwork sweater. And to be fair, I was definitely dreading casting this on. I was like, oh my god, don't know if I want, like, it's a big undertaking. But I'm actually really enjoying it. It kind of wasn't getting priority, I think, because his birthday is the early May. Like a week into May, so I was kind of nervous that, like, oh crap, I've just pulled all the stitches off. Oh, this is not going well. Maybe I shouldn't have done this live. His birthday is the a week into May, so I've got just about 6 weeks now, and I cast it on pretty much bang on to 2 months before his birthday. So I was like, okay, you need to, like, his birthday's in 2 months, you need to sort this out. So it is an all over colourwork sweater, and I started with the Strange Brew pattern from Tynn Knits, which isn't really a pattern, it's more like a recipe book. So it's actually really good. There we go. So it is a pattern, and it gives you, basically allows you to knit a colourwork sweater, or theoretically any sweater, with a rounded yoke. So it has like gradual increases or decreases. It gives you the pattern both top down and bottom up. And the idea is it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. You plug in your own colourwork motifs. And there are 3 gauges. There's so many sizes. It goes from like a baby all the way up to like a men's 4XL, I think. So there are a lot of sizes in the pattern, and it gives you the gauge for fingering, like a fingering weight, a DK weight, or an Aran weight pattern. Like, it is just a bible of, it's got everything, it's amazing. So I knew I was going to use that, and then I was really torn on what to do for the colourwork motif, and then I realised I think what I was struggling with is I wanted something that looks quite traditional, but I didn't really want to use too many colours, and I was kind of opposed to like a really traditional Fair Isle where it's a lot of different motifs, and like if you think of like a Murray Wallen, it looks so cohesive, but actually it's like 50 colours. I didn't want that. I just wanted a few colours. Done. So I had the pattern for the Marit Cardigan, which is a beautiful cardigan, and Mega of Skeins of Dreams is making one right now, and I will make one in the future, and I bought the pattern with the intention of making it for myself. But actually what I'm doing is using the motif in the Strange Brew pattern. So this is what I have. Oh goodness, it doesn't look so good. This is what I have so far. There's the back actually, there's a little bit more knitting on the back. This is what I have so far. So this is the back. I added like a couple of short rows. I actually got a really good recommendation to add the short rows into the ribbing, and I will keep that in mind for future. I didn't really want lots of short rows because it's all over colourwork. Yeah, so this is the motif, there we go. And I'm using this like green is my main contrast colour, and then this is the cinnamon as like my secondary contrast colour. I originally had enough yarn for an Oliver green sweater with coloured contrast, and changed my mind. I did some swatches, which I've shown in previous episodes, and this is what I landed on. So this is all Woolyknit yarn again. I paid for all of this, I just really like the yarn. Mostly, I knew that I was making an all over colourwork sweater, and I didn't really want to break the bank with like a men's all over colourwork, and I wanted to knit DK weight. So it fit very nicely into the price point that I was willing to pay. Actually, when I first ordered it, so the whole plan originally was to knit the whole thing in this, which is the Diggle DK base. I think this might be being phased out, because I know that they don't have as many colours as they used to have, and it's all on sale. But they do have now the Worth Mill DK. I'm not sure what's happening there. But yeah, so my original plan was that I would use it all Diggle DK. But I ordered the other colours and they were just too like primary. They weren't subtle. So I changed my mind and I used this as the main colour, and I'm using 2 strands held together of the British wool fingering for the 4-ply as my contrast. So this is the Celtic green and this is the cinnamon brown. I really like it. It's worked out really well. I do think that that there's a slight difference. You can definitely see it. Like, I think my tension is pretty good, but the green, like there are slightly different thicknesses, because obviously this is all 1 ply, the other one is 2-ply held together, or 2 strands held together. So there's a bit of a difference, but I think it will block out. And yeah, I'm just really pleased with this. So I have a little while still until his birthday. Like I said, it's a week into May. But I do need to make a bit of a move with this. I'd like to get the yoke done. Maybe even just past the yoke by, gosh, I actually want to get like halfway through the body by the end of March, but that's only next week. So we'll see. That being said, I've just got my sweater number 18 off the needles and my test knit off the needles, so I definitely have a bit more free time and space now. I'm actually next week, so from this video is going live on Friday, from Saturday I'm going to my parents' house for a week to dog sit because they're going on holiday. So I'm taking this with me, as I might just take this on one other project. I probably won't, I'll probably take 5, but my plan is that this is going to be my real focus project of that week, because I'm home, I'm pretty much alone. My boyfriend's going skiing with his dad and his brother, so it's just going to be me and the dog chilling out and watching TV and going on nice walks and working obviously during the day. But it means I have like no plans during the evenings, and I'm thinking that, like, what do I have? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like 4 nights of just TV sitting and knitting. I think I can make some pretty good progress on this. It's not really something that I sit down and be like, oh, I'll just do a row. Like I sit down and do like a whole motif for like 10 rows at once, because it's really, it's not challenging, it's not difficult, but it does feel quite involved. And yeah, it's working out really well. So the pattern just tells you like when to increase, and the Marit pattern has worked perfectly for it, because the motifs are all fit quite well. Like it says knit 18 rows, and then the motif I have like 2 motifs together is 18 rows, so it's fitting really well. The other thing that would be really good is whilst he sent me, my stepdad sent me pictures of his favourite sweater with a tape measure lined over parts of it, which is really helpful. But it would be really good to go and find that sweater whilst he's on holiday and just measure things like the yoke depth, because that's not something that he'd think. And I think it would be challenging to describe somebody to go and measure yoke depth, but I know what I'm looking for. So yeah, I'm thinking I'll spend, like, I can double check my sizing on all of that when I'm out there. So those are my 2 whips that were happening before, and I've got 2 new whips because of course I have 2 new whips. So I'm realising the swatch for one of them has slid all the way to the floor. So let's talk about this one first. This is like my springtime. Could not resist casting this on. The storyline behind this is that on a Sunday evening we went to see Batman, which I did not realise is like a 3-hour-long movie. It's a 3-hour-long movie. We went to see Batman and I had nothing plain on the needles. Like everything was patterned or colour work, or I was like tied to a chart or tied to daylight for all of them. And I thought, well, I'll just cast on something new. I also felt like I deserved it. At that point I'd finished this sweater. I was looking for it, like, where's that sweater gone? I'm wearing it. I'd finished that one and I thought I'll just do something new. And it was only one evening, and I thought if I cast it on now, then I can like take it off again and not worry about it for a few more weeks, and then pick it up again like once I've got something else off the needles. It's so good. I'm glad this is tied up in a project bag, because otherwise I'd be picking this up to work on it like all the time. So this yarn, let me just, shall I put this on a stitch holder as well? Did I not learn my lesson from doing this a minute ago, and I'm going to take ages again? This pattern is another My Favourite Things Knitwear pattern. Goodness, I promise that this episode is not sponsored by them or by Woolyknit. I am just a creature of habit and I like what I like, and it happens to be Woolyknit yarn and My Favourite Things Knitwear patterns. This is a cardigan number 7, which is a really, really simple but such a well-fitting cardigan, and it is an it's a top-down raglan cardigan with like quite a big gauge. I think it's a 14 stitches per 10 centimetre gauge, and I just really love it. So sorry, why? I always almost immediately regret doing this. Did that even help? I'm not sure. This is my like springtime version. Kind of. Did not help. Did not help anything. Okay, this is my springtime version, and it is in this beautiful lilac yarn. And this is what I got through. I got through an entire ball of yarn watching Batman, which I'm pretty chuffed with. So it's made some good progress. I'm about halfway through the yoke, I think, maybe slightly more. So I'm using this yarn. It is Holzgarn Cielo, or sorry, it's not Cielo, it's Cielo. It means sky in Spanish. It is the colorway Flora, and I used this yarn before to make my Badger and Bloom sweater, and I was really, really impressed with it. So I ordered some more recently, and I've got 6 balls of this, which I am worried I'll run out of, if I'm being honest. I've made this cardigan, sorry, twice before, and both times I've used drops air, and both times I've used up less than 5 skeins. So I've used about 4.5 skeins, and this is very similar to drops air, although it's 125 meters instead of 150 meters. So my 6 skeins should be the equivalent of, pretty much the equivalent of 5 skeins of drops air. But I'm just nervous because this is 1 skein so far, and I think I need at least a full skein for each sleeve. So 4 skeins left for the body. What is that noise? So yeah, this is 1 ball, but I'm just going to roll with it. I have a bad habit of panicking that I'm going to run out of yarn and then ordering more yarn, which I don't need, and then being stuck with a skein. So I'm just going to keep rocking with it and see how we go. This was so perfect for knitting in the cinema because I don't love purling. Like, I don't dislike purling. I just don't love purling. Like, I'm like, purling. But in the cinema, I was so focused on the plot of the movie. It's quite an intense movie. It was quite a lot going on. I was so focused on it that I just like purled away without even thinking twice about it. It was like a hand action as opposed to a brain action. So yeah, I'm really excited. I finished a dress. I made a dress recently, which is all pinks and purples. And so this, I'll put a picture of the fabric in actually. I just imagine myself wearing this cardigan and that dress and being like a springtime fairy, and it's gonna look so cute. And yeah, so I've got the second ball ready. I took this to knit night on Monday, but I actually spent the whole knit night working on my sweater number 18 instead. So I didn't make any progress, but I should make some soon. And it's just like, I want to finish this sooner rather than later because I think it's just going to be so nice to wear. And I really like the fabric that's coming up with this. And again, if I enjoy this, I would 150% buy more Cielo and make this again, because I love this yarn and I love this pattern, and this is like perfect gauge, and I really would like a black version, and I feel like this could be the yarn choice for it. This Cielo, by the way, is 42% alpaca, 42% fine merino wool, and 60% polyamide, and it's an I-cord constructed. I don't know why I can't find the loose. I don't know if I can pull the loose one. I can't find it. It's constructed like an I-cord, which is what the polyamide section is, but it means it's really light and fluffy. It's got like a bit of interesting like stretch to it, which I find quite fun. And yeah, it's just a fun one. Like, I just felt like I wasn't super inspired. All my projects were in a weird place. Like, I had to do colour work was focused, or I had to do sleeve patterning, or I had to finish the body, and all of them were just like, I don't want to do any of these. So I cast on a new project. And I'm holding this in my bag by Tea Cake Make, who is an online seller. I've got a few of her bags. This one is also a Tea Cake Make bag. But this one is just like the most perfect spring colours, and I think I cast this on, yeah, I did. I cast this on Sunday, which was the spring equinox. So yeah, it was just like calling to me, and I'm excited to get this finished. And I don't think it'll take long. I think I could finish this like easily in a week if I was focused on it. But I do have some other things on the go. Maybe I'll take this out to my parents as well. We'll see. Okay, and I've got one more whip. It's still really warm. 100% woolen mohair is not the thing to be wearing on an almost summery day. So you may remember last episode I shared some yarn which was sent to me by Stephanie at Gullet Farms. So brief overview of the context: I went to Unravel Festival start of March? No, February? I don't know. I went there a little while ago, 2 episodes ago. I went to Unravel Festival and I picked up a skein of beautiful hand-dyed yarn from Telling Yarns, and it was part of their Gullet Farms collaboration. And Gullet Farms are it's like an independent farm, and they are starting to run a yarn line. And a viewer sent me a message and said, hey, by the way, have you seen this? You can sign up, they'll send you some samples. So I emailed them on the newsletter and said, your yarn is amazing. Do you have any more information about it? I'd love to share a bit more of like the history of it on the podcast. So they sent me some samples. They also sent the person who sent me their way also sent me a picture of her samples, and her samples are also beautiful. But they sent me 4 skeins of yarn, which was like the most stunning packaging. Like the this beautiful ribbon and this like hand, it was stunning. It was so nice. So I showed the skeins last time, and as soon as I finished podcasting, I went and skeined up, like balled up the yarn, because I was just so excited to touch it and feel what it was like. These are kind of, oh, they've taken on the heat so well, being in the sun and on my windowsill. This dark one's really toasty. So these are the 4 skeins of yarn. They're stunning, they're so beautiful. So they're all the natural colourway, and they're from a variety of different sheets, and some of them are blends and some of them are not blends. And I said a few things in the last episode. So the first thing was that I really wasn't sure what the yardage was, and Stephanie sent me the next day an email and was like, here's the yardage. I don't know why I didn't think of just emailing and asking. That was really stupid on me, but she sent me a message, and so they're all between 160 and 100 and 200 meters. I believe this one, this oatmeal one, is 160, and I think maybe this dark one is 190, and the other two are 200 meters. So they're all pretty comfortably like around the 200 meters per 100 gram mark, which I guess depending on, like, I would call that a worsted, but, or even an Aran weight, but I think that depends on where they fall in your mindset. And what I really wanted to do, I'm not a shawl wearer, I made it very clear, I don't really wear shawls, but I do have a couple of well, that sounds really gonna annoy me. Okay, he's stopping again. I don't know if I trust him to not grind this again. I don't know what he's doing. So I really wanted to make a shawl, and I'm not really a shawl wearer, but what I said was I work from home, and the office is, this is the sunny side of the house, the other side is a lot darker, and our office can be quite cold, and so I have a few like blanket scarves that I kind of wrap around myself if I'm cold in the office, and I'd love for that to be something knitted. And so I was looking for like a big squishy cozy shawl, but I also really wanted to fade, because if you look at these colours, like they're begging to be faded from light to dark in my opinion. And so I've never done a fade before, so I asked for 2 things. I asked for some tips on, well, some shawl recommendations. I asked for some tips on fading. Now I had a huge list of shawl recommendations. I will put them in the show, like in the YouTube show notes below. I don't know if they're show notes, but all my notes are always in the description of the video, and I already typed them all up and sent them over to Stephanie Gullet Farms, so I'll just copy them from there and put them below. There are 2 that I thought were really good. I can't remember their names, but I'll, it starts with an A. There's one from now I'm even not sure about the designer right. I think it's Bira, who is Melody Hoffman. But I'll put the name and the pattern on the screen here. And this is beautiful because it's got a really nice natural fade. However, it is, from what I can see and from the description of the description of the shawl, it's just done by split slicing pusilopi, and there's not actually like a fade. It's just that because they're all natural colours, they just gradually fade one to the next, which I was like, I'm not that fussed for that. Like, I'd rather a more purposeful fade. So I found that one challenging, and then the other one, which I thought was a really good one, is I think it's called the Grain Shawl, and it is by Andrea Mowry, and it's stunning, and it is perfect if I wasn't so lazy, because each section, like, it's done in really natural colours, and each section has a different motif. I just want garter. I want garter stitch, like squishy goodness, and so if I was less lazy and more willing to knit something with a pattern, I think this shawl would be absolutely perfect. However, I just want garter plain goodness. So this shawl, I've decided, was also recommended, so thank you to, I don't know who it was that recommended it, but somebody sent me their way, and as soon as I saw it I was like, that's the one I want to do. And it is the Winter Tales Blanket Shawl by Ozetta. I have never made an Ozetta pattern before, but I've definitely lusted after a few. There's the Season Sweater, which I think is beautiful, and so I was like, oh cool, a chance to try this designer. That shawl is also made in Pusilopi, but it's like a nice, like, real rustic colour, and it uses up like bang on, I think I'm 5 meters short of the perfect yardage for that shawl. The other thing which I really liked about it, I'm sitting with my arms up here and I look very hunched. The other thing I really liked about it is that the way it's constructed is like you knit and you increase till a certain width, and then you knit flat and then you decrease. And what I thought that would be really helpful for is my yarn management, because always said I want to run out of yarn, and I want to make sure that I can fade at the right places, and so that means that I can really, like, I know exactly where the halfway point of the shawl is, and so if I've not used up, like at the halfway point I should be in the middle of fading between like my second colour and my third colour. So that was really helpful. And also you can just knit until it's a certain size, which I also thought was quite helpful because I can just use the yarn, like how much of the yarn I need or have to use. The second thing, so thank you to everyone, sorry, who sent, who left a recommendation, because they were really helpful, and I sent them all to Stephanie Gullet Farms. The second thing was fading, and some people just sent me their fade suggestions, but the one which was I found the most helpful is there's a blog post by Labby May, and again I'll put it down below, which is a 16 stitch fade. So you start with obviously colour A and you fade into colour B completely, and over that you fade between A and B. So what I'm planning to do ultimately is to knit. I want to at some point I'm still, I'll show you in a minute, I've barely cast this on, like I have a tiny little piddly bit. What I thought I would do is I'll keep knitting, this is my first colour, I'll keep knitting with this until it's pretty big. And when I'm starting to potentially run out of yarn, or like when I make it to a bigger size, like it's quite big, I'm going to weigh the yarn, then knit 8 rows, and then weigh the yarn again, so I understand approximately how much yarn it takes to knit 8 rows. And then I'll start the fade when I have that much yarn left. It'll be slightly more to give myself a little bit of a buffer, but say it takes like 4 grams of yarn for 8 rows, I'll maybe take like 5 or 6 grams and start the fade. And keep doing with this throughout. That's the plan. Yeah, so I thought what I did do, I only just cast this on yesterday. I was watching Ruth of Ruth Loves to Knit last night, and Ruth's motto is, it's my knitting I'll cast on if I want to, and I was like, right, that's it, I'm casting on. So I hadn't cast this on so far, so I did do a swatch. This edge is really messy, apologies, but this is what they look like all together. They're stunning, like they're so beautiful. I'm so excited to wrap myself up in this. And this is really throwing me off because I think it bloomed quite a lot with blocking. I'm pretty sure this is a 4mm gauge, and I have 18 stitches per 10 centimeters, or I have 16. I think I have 16 stitches per 10 centimeters, and the pattern calls for 18. But I like this fabric, like I don't want any more dense. It's still got like a nice bit of drape to it, like it's still, woo. So I'm happy with this, and the shawl also says like knit until your pattern measures X, so I think I'm okay. But I will say I've cast on and it does feel like a lot more loose, so I think it must bloom a lot, because if I compare this fabric to this fabric, this feels so much denser and this feels really like airy, but I've cast on. So this is just my little baby cast on. I've done like the first handful of rows and it's a lot of fun. I think I'm really going to enjoy this. I'm really enjoying it so far. I might just double check my gauge now. I've now just done enough to be able to measure my gauge, I guess, across at least 5 centimeters worth, and just check where it's at in comparison to this, and I'll get going with it. I'm looking forward to it. Again, I think I'll probably only take one of my 2 like garter projects, so well, my stockinette projects. I've got the cardigan and I've got this, and I'll take one of them to my parents, because I think if I take both I'll just knit on them all day. And really I should take, I'm torn because this one, like it's not going to stay cold forever, so I should knit it whilst it's still cold. But the other one is like the perfect springtime cardigan, so I want to be able to wear it for spring. So they both have like, there's no pressure because it's knitting, but they both have like a reason to be done first. So I think that's all my knitting. I'm just looking around to see if I've missed anything, but I don't think so. I think that's all of it. So before I move into the acquisitions, it's time for the winners of the Conealong. So the Conealong is a knit along that I've been running for 6 weeks, which is crazy. It feels like it's been way longer or way less time. I don't know. It is the Conealong I've been running with Woolyknit, who is a yarn producer here in the UK, who make a variety of products. Two of which are my favourite. They make the British wool cones, which is what I've used to make my mallard, is the British wool cones, and then both this and the this are the British wool hanks, so you can see I'm a bit of a British Woolyknit fan. So they make British wool cones and British wool hanks, and they also make merino wool cones, which are super luxurious. I really like how soft and squishy they are. And that, like, I can tell you now, my next purchase from Woolyknit will be like 2 cones of merino, one in nebulous and one in like a light smoke grey, to make half and half triangles wrap. I've already planned it out. Don't know when I'm going to make it, don't know when I'm going to buy it, but that's what I'll be buying when I next make a Woolyknit purchase. So yeah, this is the British wool, and they provided a discount code for the first 4 weeks of the project for 20% off, and then the past 2 weeks there's been no discount code, but people have been knitting with the yarn and sharing on Instagram with the hashtag Conealong. And I just thought I would check and see how many entries there are, because there I think there are quite a few. 500 plus posts, 500 plus, isn't that crazy? There have been amazing things, like people have made, oh my gosh, I've not looked at this in a few days, and this is incredible. Like colour work, oh my, sorry, I should not have put it on my phone midway through this. I'll put it down again, because I'll otherwise just sit and look at all the nice finished projects. Yeah, so it was running for 6 weeks. I'm getting so out of tune here. And you could use any cone of yarn, but you'll get double entries if you use a Woolyknit cone, or Woolyknit hank, basically any Woolyknit products. There's also there was a Ravelry group, and there was a Instagram thread. And it's been so nice to see. It feels kind of surreal. I feel like for a while, every podcast I watched, they were like, here's my cone of yarn from Woolyknit. And I was like, did I do this? So that was really nice. But it was also, I think what was really nice about it is that I really, really like the products. And as you can see, like the blue is gifted for the Conealong, along with a burgundy cone, which I've not cast on yet. But this was already in stash. The like yellow was in stash. The stuff for the colourwork sweater, all this was already in stash. Just because I really like their yarn. So it was nice to be able to work with someone that I really liked and appreciated. And then when the Conealong, the time frame ended that the discount would apply, they sent me a nice big bouquet of flowers and said thank you so much for working together. And I feel like I've been spoiled because I don't think there's ever going to be a brand collaboration as good as this. But it was just really, really lovely to do. So I have a box in my craft room full of the cones that are ready to be given away. And what I will have done by the time the video is going live on Friday instead of Thursday, because probably on Friday morning or maybe on Thursday evening, at some point I will put all of the winners of the Conealong here on the screen. There are 6 winners, and what I have done is probably put them all into an Excel sheet, put in the people who use Woolyknit twice, and then add the Ravelry users, and then pick 6 winners at random numbers. And so the 6 winners are on screen now. So congratulations if that's one of you. You need to get in touch with me ultimately. So either send me a message on Instagram, or send me an email, or send me a Ravelry message. All the contact information is below, and I will get your cones sent to you however I can. I'm hoping that not every single one of the winners is like in the US, because I'm going to be spending a fortune on shipping. Hopefully there's like 1 or 2 in the UK. But it is an international giveaway, so anyone else can win it. And yeah, that is about it. I'm really pleased that I finished this one and my first sweater were my 2 Conealong projects. I finished one of them, and of course I accidentally had an extra entry which I started and finished in the Conealong window. So thanks everyone for taking part, and yeah, I just really, really enjoyed it. I hope everyone else really enjoyed it. I hope if you've ordered some Woolyknit cones that you're enjoying working with them, and that you will, yeah, feel free to continue to use the hashtag, because I just love seeing projects made up in it. And I still have plenty of Woolyknit in stash, so I will no doubt be continuing to knit with Woolyknit yarn for the foreseeable future. So the last thing is just acquisitions, and it's funny because 2 days ago I was like, I don't even have that many acquisitions. I thought I just had this sock and mini, and I was like, that's it? Is that all I have? And I was like, that must be all I have. Of course it's not all I have. Of course it's not. It's just been 2 weeks since I last filmed, and so I somehow thought that I had less yarn to show. So firstly, I have a bag. When I ordered the 175mm needles, I ordered them from Tribe Yarns, And I don't know if anyone else has this, but the idea of just buying a set of needles and still paying shipping, I was like, I don't want to do that. So I bought a bag. This is my bag. How cute is it? It says wool. And I'm kind of, at first I was like, oh no, like it's not as big as I thought it would be. But actually it's like a round base. So it's actually more like a big bucket. So I already have a basket, which I have next to me with projects, but actually this is also perfect because this can also hold like a few project bags. So I'm going to fill this when I go to my parents for the week with projects, and it has this like lining, so even if you wanted to like overstuff it, you could, and it would fit a lot in it. It's deceptively much larger than I thought. So that's my first acquisition. And then my second acquisitions have a nice story to them, so I can tell my nice story. So 2 weekends ago, my boyfriend went to climb. Oh, I've just got all, it's like a Hessian bag and all the dust has just come up from it and it's all on my nose. So collect my things. 2 weekends ago, my boyfriend went to climb a Munro with my stepdad, and Munros are like hills of a certain height in Scotland. I don't know what the height is, but I think there are 250 something of them. And my stepdad wanted to do 50 before he's 50, but obviously he's getting a sweater for his 50th birthday in a few months and he's on 13. So he's now trying to do 55 before he's 55. But my boyfriend's really outdoorsy and is always up for like a bit of an adventure. So they decided 2 weekends ago, it was nice weather and they were going to do a Munro. So that was great. So my mum, I've not lived at home, well, I've not lived in Scotland since I graduated in 2016. So my mum was really like, oh, we're gonna have a girly day. She was really into the idea, which I thought was really sweet. And I was very excited for it because the idea of just like spending Saturday with my mum and like doing some nice stuff and going for lunch, that's just like a really day-to-day thing. But because I've been living away for so long, it's not really been our norm. And she was like, oh, like, do you have any ideas? What should we do? And we toyed up with going here and there, and then I suggested going to a New Lanark Mill. Now I wanted to go for the yarn. It is a mill located like between Glasgow and Edinburgh. It's like 2/3 towards Glasgow, and it's about a 40-minute drive from where my parents stay, which is between Glasgow and Edinburgh. And I knew that I could only ever go there if someone was driving, because there's not, like, it's in the middle of nowhere. And it was a nice day and I was like, I'll just push for this, like, why not? So I found a nice cafe to go to. But I was feeling really nervous. I was like, oh, sorry, that was really fast. I was feeling really nervous because I was like, what if no one else likes this? And we get there and it's just like a big yarn shop and nothing. And yeah, but it was the complete opposite. It was lovely. It was so, so nice. I only heard about it because Brogan of the Woolly Witchcraft, who also has a podcast, she had gone and had posted about it maybe on Instagram and talked about it on her podcast. So it's been in the back of my mind for a little while, and I actually ordered yarn from them when I sent yarn to Mega in our yarn swap box back in November time. So I knew they existed, but I didn't really know much more than that. I knew they had yarn cones, which of course I love a cone. So we drove along and it was lovely. It's like a heritage site. I'll put some footage in over while I'm talking because I made sure to take some footage for the podcast. And it's right down in like the bottom of a valley. So you drive down a hill and then you walk down this big hill, and it's so nestled in that you kind of turn a corner and it's there. And it was just beautiful. I think some people live there, but mostly it's a heritage site. So there's a hotel and there's a tourist information and there's a youth hostel and an information centre. And it's really close to the Falls of Clyde, which is a really big, or like, not a really big waterfall, but it's kind of like because it's a mill, they use the rushing water to power the mill. And there are some really nice trails and picnic spots around there. We just wandered around a little bit. It was like a nice sunny day and we had a little wander, and then we walked into the gift shop, which is partial gift shop, partial yarn shop, like literally split down the middle almost. And they had a lot of yarn. A lot of it was, I don't know, they have beautiful colours, but some of it, like, I wasn't so sold. I only really knit sweaters, and so I wasn't really sold enough to buy a sweater quantity, because they have chunky DK and Aran weight, and I'm pretty sure their DK was like £5 for 50 grams and their Aran weight was £9 for 100 grams. And I was like, yeah, like I like this yarn, but I knew the DK I'd have to get like 10 balls, and I was like, do I want to spend £50 on, I don't know, like I couldn't decide on that enough. Their cones were pretty pricey, but they were huge. Their cones were like £50, but they were like 800 gram cones. And then nestled at the back of the shop was this big basket. And it's kind of like those old-fashioned like wicker laundry baskets where you could probably fit like 6 people inside. And as we were walking into the gift shop, there was a couple leaving, like a man and a woman that left, and they both had like big IKEA bags full of hanks. So when we arrived, I was like, where are the hanks? And obviously we missed on some luck, because I don't know what they left with, but this basket, I will put a video of the basket, was amazing. And so I went diving, like literally, I think I was pretty much doubled over the basket, like my head in the basket, trying to get some yarn. So I'll show you what I got. I have absolutely no plans for any of these, and I don't have any plans to cast them on super soon, but I have them anyway. So I've caked up one of the 3. I'll show you that one first. This is the first one, and it is their Aran base in the colourway Charcoal. 400 grams. I actually weighed it and it's slightly less. It's like 385, and it is 3 ply, and I'm pretty sure it's about 700 meters, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. And this was £16. So again, like their Aran is usually £9 a 100 grams, and I got 400 grams for £16. So the bucket was definitely quite well priced. I just wish they had more of this, because now I'm not really sure what to do with 700 grams of it. I was looking for a while at something like a Love Note or Ranunculus. I don't know how they work with like a more rustic yarn, or potentially they could be a shawl at some point in the future. So I have 4 really big cakes of this, and then I have 2 hanks, 2 DK weight hanks. One of them I'm obsessed with, so these are the hanks. This is my happy place, like right here, just chilling out. This is 350 grams of DK weight. It came with these like plastic ties around it. Yeah, 350 grams, and this one was £14. And it's in this like kind of a carrot, like the sun's gonna be catching it quite nice, kind of like a caramel colour. And then this one is stunning. It is their natural base, and it is 300 grams, also DK. Oh, it's got threads all over it. And it was £12. So these were, I think I spent £42 in total. So yeah, I've got 300 grams, 350 grams of 300 grams, and I'd love to make a colourwork item with these. I think it would look beautiful. I'd like this to be the main and this to be the contrast, but honestly it could be other way around. And yeah, there should be more than enough yardage here, like 650 grams. Yeah, that should be completely fine. There was more there. There was a lot more beautiful things. There was a whole kilo of this like barber pole like spun one, and it was lovely. And I do definitely think I would, I don't know how often they replenish that bucket, but I would definitely go back for that one. Like if I lived closer and I drove, or I had a car to drive around in, then I would definitely pop by more often. But maybe hopefully my mum was really taken by it. She thought the whole place was lovely. So hopefully she'll want to go back sometime in the summer and I can go and get some more yarn. And yeah, I was really pleased with it. I thought it was quite a budget friendly option. They smell really, really strongly of spinning oil, like very industrial. So I really do want to, they're much easier to store like this right now because they're quite neat and tidy hanks. But it would be nice to swatch up and see how much these block out, because like I say, like they just smell like oil. And I think from experience, if it's really oily, it usually blocks quite well because a lot of the oil washes out. I don't know if you can tell. There's like almost like a pink tone, like a shell pink through this. It's really catching my nose now. So yeah, that was my trip to New Mill. If you're in Scotland, so Lauren, yeah, it's Lauren, who used to have a podcast, but she's taken a bit of a break from podcasting. She was messaging and said, is it worth the drive? And I think for her it would be like a 4-hour drive, and I was like, it's not worth that. Like, it's not worth a huge drive. But she's down this way for a wedding in the summer, and I was like, yeah, it's worth popping by. Like, it's worth like an hour drive. It's not worth a 4-hour drive, because there's not that much there, and I think you'd be quite dependent on maybe what's in this hank box. The other thing is we finished up there, we went for a really nice lunch at a little place called the Higgledy Piggledy Cafe. It was so cute, and my mum was just so happy. Like, she was just really pleased this is something we can do. Like, I live now close enough that we can go and spend a nice day together. So that was a really lovely day, and I got yarn, and I got home, and Sam, my boyfriend, arrived back from the Monroe, and he's like, you bought yarn? I was like, yes. It's like, where are we putting that yarn? Like, I don't know where we're putting it, it's okay, it's fine. And I had to borrow a bag from my mum to bring the yarn back in, because I didn't take a big enough bag with me to bring all my yarn home. So that's it. Goodness, I think this is going to be a long one again. But I did try. Last time I felt like I really lost control and I was just rambling, and that resulted in a very long video. So hopefully this time the video is more reasonable in length. And yeah, what time are we at? Just after 12 o'clock here with me. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to take a little bit of time to tidy up. I am going for a coffee with Amy Palco, who lives very close to me, and I'm very lucky to see Amy every single weekend at night. But I mentioned on Monday at Knit Night that I had the day off. I said, let's get a coffee. So we're going to go to a little cafe down at the waterfront, and I might sew up a skirt this afternoon. I might try to cut it out actually and pin it all before we go, and then before I leave for coffee, and when I come back from coffee I can do some sewing. And I'm just gonna sit and knit and chill out. Otherwise, I've got a big pile of dishes that are like just that way, which I need to do today. And that's about it. And then yeah, I'm spending a week at my parents' house to do some dog sitting. I'm looking forward to it actually. It'll be really nice. It's a shame because they have a garden, like a summer house in the garden, which is all like wooden and really cozy. And I considered delaying podcasting until I was there to film we call it the Bonnie, to film down in the Bonnie, but I realised I'd have to take all my projects out there, and it would be a real hassle, so I've not done it. But maybe one day I'll film there because it's a really nice spot for it. So I'm there for a week, and then at the end of that week, I'm going to the Scottish Wool Producers Showcase, which is kind of like a subset of the Perth Yarn Festival. It's run by the same Eva, who runs the Perth Yarn Festival, has put this together. It's kind of a mini festival. There aren't that many vendors, but there are some vendors, and a few people I know are going, so a few people from Knit are going, and yeah, it should be really interesting. I think the time I'm going there's a talk on, so I'll watch the talk. I'm in the 12 till 3 slot. There are definitely still tickets for especially for the afternoon slot. The 3 till 6 is a bit quieter, and I'm looking forward to it. And somebody left the very relevant comment on the last episode, which said yarn everyone knows that yarn festival purchases don't count. So yeah, I'm sure I'll come back with some yarn to show. There is when I was at Beautiful Knitters in London, they completely talked me into buying 2 skeins of a yarn called the Kinross 4-ply, which is a lamb's wool, and they showed me the sample, and I felt the sample, and it was so incredibly soft, and I bought 2 50-gram skeins, and the people who make Kinross 4-ply are actually going to be at the festival, and I'm considering getting a sweater's quantity of the Kinross 4-ply to make a finger weight sweater. So that's the only thing on my agenda, and otherwise just go have a look and see what's there. And I think that's everything for me. I hope you have a wonderful weekend or week, depending on when you watch this episode. Thank you as always for tuning in. I'll be back in a few weeks with more yarn and more things, and probably some more purchases from the Perth Yarn Festival. And yeah, happy knitting. I'll speak to you soon. Bye!